Hello and welcome. My name is Lisa. You're watching One Lisa Show, and it is Christmas. It's also the first night of Hanukkah. So if you are celebrating, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, season's greetings to you. Thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, I talk a lot about sewing, but also other things and some life. If this is not, welcome back. I'm wearing something I made. It's one of my recent makes. It's the South Bank by Nina Lee, and it is just I made, it has multiple versions, a dress version, a cropped sweatshirt, and then more of a longer sweatshirt. And I did the longer sweatshirt and added cuffing at the bottom. This fabric was a Beyond the Pink Door subscription box fabric from a long time ago. It is very snuggly. I'm glad I finally got around to making it. I've been wearing it this whole month. But let me share with you my Merry Christmas. I made 2 gifts this year, both for one for each of my nieces. And I did something a little outrageous. I made them each a quilt. I had an idea in October that I was going to make them each a quilt for their new rooms. And let me tell you behind the scenes. A behind the scenes story is I just finished in October, I finished a UFO that I had laying around for a year and a half, and it was a lap quilt, and it was my first go at making a quilt. My machine did not like machine quilting all those layers, so I hand quilted that lap quilt, and not a pretty design or too close together or anything like that, but I did it. And then I thought I could make them each a quilt. It's October. I need to share with you my story. It was about a week before Halloween. I went into a quilt store I had never been in, and it was in a neighboring town. And I was driving, and I was like, I've never been in there, and I've always thought about stopping in. So I went into this one quilt shop that I had never been in. And I noticed they had a long arm, and it had a sign, ask us about our long arm services. So I asked the lady that was at the counter, and she was helping older customers, and they all had to chime in. So even though they had been checked out, they were still standing there talking. And I asked, I want to find out, like, what's your turnaround time for your long arm? And she said, oh, we're 3 months out. And I said, okay. I said, so something for Christmas would be out. She said, absolutely. And these 2 client customers and the lady that was behind the counter were like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I wanted to make a quilt. I wanted to make 2 quilts for Christmas presents. And they said, have you done them yet? Have you made the tops? And I said, no, I'm going to do that. I'm looking at your fabrics. I said, I've only made 1 quilt, and it took me like 2 years, but I feel confident I can get this done for Christmas. And they all looked at each other and kind of laughed, and they looked at me in the face. And one of the older customers, they're both older women, they looked at me in the face, and they're like, ha ha ha, there's no way you're going to make 1 quilt by Christmas, let alone 2. Don't tell Elisa that that's not possible. That's all I'm going to say. They didn't know me from Adam. They didn't know anything about my sewing skills or lack thereof. They just knew that I had just finished my first quilt that I've ever made, and I wanted to do 2 more for Christmas. Okay. I did not buy anything at that store. They told me there was no way, and they were 3 months out for a long arm. There was no way that I could get this accomplished. I said, well, I do a lot of sewing. I said, it's my hobby. And I've been sewing for a few years, and I make a lot of my clothes. It's Penny. And they're like, nope, quilt is not the same. And they're right, a quilt is not the same. So I went online and I ordered some fabrics from Missouri Star Quilt Company, and did not buy anything at that quilt shop. The following Saturday, I did go to my local quilt shop that I'm usually do like shop around for, and I don't always buy quilting supplies, but they have gorgeous quilting or cotton poplins and high quality cotton quilt fabrics that a lot of them I make tops out of. So the owner of that store, her name is Andrea, and it's Fox's Farmhouse Quilting, and she sells online on Etsy. I'll put a link to her store. I will tell you, I walked in there and she was hobbling around because she had injured her leg. I think it was her knee or her hip. But we were talking, and I said, you know, I went and checked out your competitor, told her the story, and she's like, they told you couldn't make 2 quilts for Christmas? And I was like, yeah, they told me there's no way I'd get it done. And she's like, they don't know you. And how rude, number one. Number two, they don't know you. I'm like, yeah, but I've only ever done the one quilt. And you know, I'm not a big quilter. And she's like, I don't care. They don't know you. That's insulting. So I bought some more fabrics there for these quilts. Let me show you what I made. I'll show you the first one that I made was the younger ones. So her color is gold or yellow. I'll try to insert a picture too, so you can kind of get an idea. But hello. Hello. Can you tell I'm beaming because this is so cool? I was so proud of it. The backing, and I had to hand stitch it because my machine is not, so you can kind of see the stitching I did. But my machine doesn't really like quilting. It just doesn't. So I hand stitched everything on the inside, and it is spread out pretty far. I might go back and add more if need be. But I did do horizontal lines, so every block has been stitched on. And then it does say on the batting that it could be up to 8 inches apart, your lines. So I feel like I'm within that range for all of it. Hold on, I gotta get Penny her toy. Then I did my other nieces, pink and charcoal, but her mom said gray is also good. And I did a whole different quilt for her. And then they had the same backing. There was a sale at Missouri Star Quilt Company for 108-inch wide backing. So I kind of just went bananas and got a lot of that. But this is her quilt. Again, hand stitched on the inside. You can't really see too much of the stitching, but every block was stitched. Both quilts were inspiration from Missouri Star Quilt Company. They have a YouTube channel, and the yellow one is called the Summer Camp Quilt. And I followed that, and I love it. I loved it so much, but it was my first go, and there were a lot of squares that didn't turn out exactly right. So I had made a whole bunch of extra squares. I think I'm going to sew those extra, not perfect squares, blocks all together. Maybe make a pouch bag or a pillowcase because there's plenty of those. And then this one, it was called the 2-step block or the 2-step quilt, and it was a play on it. I actually didn't lay out the blocks exactly how the 2-step quilt is, but I used the 2-step block, and then I laid them out so they were all in a diagonal. And this is the block here. So if you can see, this is one block. And I used jelly rolls. I used a layer cake, and I used just regular Moda fabric solids. The block for this one, for the summer camp, is right here. So you can see this is one block. So you make this on a diagonal, the square on a diagonal, and then you do like a log cabin. It's pretty fun. That one was fun, but I had a hard time maintaining the same size for every block in the beginning because I'm new to quilt making. But I wanted to share these with you because I was oh so proud of them. I did it. I got my batting from Missouri Star Quilt Company. I'll put all the things that I purchased, if they're still available, I'll put them in the description box. And I'll put links to the videos that inspired me. And even Fox's Farmhouse, because they sell on Etsy and they're very reasonable prices. I think it's like basically $10 a yard or $11 a yard. And she sells fat quarters and half yards and all of that. It's a it was my first time binding quilts like this, hand stitched, because again, my brother just didn't want to do it. And I feel like if I fiddled with them long enough, I probably could have figured it out. I hope these girls enjoy these presents. I usually make them each a sweater every year for Christmas, either crocheted or knit. And this year I kind of just went out and made something completely different. But they're very enjoyable. And part of what I enjoyed about the hand quilting of these was having them on my lap and snugged up and watching TV while I'm hand stitching. And neither of them are perfect, but I'm still very impressed with them, and I think they turned out really good. I think they turned out spectacular for knowing that these are my second and third quilts I've ever done. I couldn't be more pleased with them. I love them both in different ways. I love the pops of color in the yellow one, and I love the pastel and the just how everything's put together in the pink and charcoal one. They give off completely different vibes. Just like both of those girls are unique in their own way, and they have their own quirks and characteristics and personalities. And these quilts, I think, describe both of those girls perfectly. And I hope they like them. And if they don't, that's okay too, because if they don't want them, I would happily take them back. I, I just am, I'm so, I have this feeling of such a satisfaction completing these quilts. I can tell you there were so many needle pricks on my fingers. I had to use a little hydrogen peroxide on the one because I didn't realize I had poked myself and I was bleeding when I was hand stitching, and it got on the white fabric. But it's all cleaned up now. No, they're not perfect. Will they probably last forever? No, but um, they're very snuggly, and I'm very impressed with the batting, with Missouri Star Quilt Company's batting. It was an 80-20 blend, and it feels thin, but with the two fabrics sandwiching it, it's very fluffy and comfy. So I just wanted to share those with you guys. I hope you had a wonderful holiday, and let me know if you've ever thought about making a quilt, or if you do quilts. If you have any tips and tricks, I'm here to help. I'd love to hear your opinion on my second and third go at making a quilts. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.